Okie dokie. It is live. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing very, very well. Hope you're having a fantastic Thursday or whatever day it is for you as you're watching this video here. I want to make a very quick little rant, a very quick little video discussing translation and talking about if it is a good idea, in my perspective anyway, in my perspective and in my opinion, if it is a good idea to be using translation as a tool to be learning a language, because there's different people who have different beliefs and different perspectives on this topic. By the way, hello to the one live person who just hopped on. So I think in my perspective, there's a couple of elements, there's a few different layers that we have to explore in this debate. Let's start here. Myself, I have used translation and I will continue to use translation, most likely, when I learn different languages. I've never really felt impeded by it. I've done it a lot. For example, when I literally, I can even show it to you. I literally just got this book here, it arrived in the mail. This book right here, Gujarati, right? A Gujarati book, which is actually a decent one. But if we look at this book, right, it's using translation. Like if I go to this page here we go. There's like a page right here. It gives you a Gujarati text, and then it gives you the English translation. It'll be like whatever, right? It'll be Atyare. Atyare is right now. Yes, like it's giving you the translation. It gives you Gujarati, gives you translation. And I think that's incredibly helpful. For me, I've met different people who have said like, oh, like for example, I remember this one person I used to know probably about 3, 4, 5 years ago, something like that, who would say, no, Azren, when someone asks you, how do you say blah, or what does blah, 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 blah mean in Spanish or in French? Like, what does that word mean? You shouldn't tell them the English word. You shouldn't just translate it. You should be explaining that word in the target language. You should explain it to help them understand. But man, let me tell you, at least for me personally, that's never been a big one. It's never really helped me a lot. I've had a lot of people who've done it, and it just doesn't sink into my brain at the same level, unless that word does not really have a direct translation and it's difficult to do so. Then it's a different scenario. But if it's a simple word like, couch, right? And there is a very good translation into a language I speak, give it to me. I want that translation. Now, here's the thing though, and this is where we get to a bit of a caveat, a bit of a problem. Hello, more live viewers. Myself, when I'm learning languages, yes, I use translation as a tool, but eventually I stop translating. Eventually, there's a point, and I don't know why it happens. I used to think it happened for everyone. Hey, Rasmus in the chat. I used to think it happened to everyone, but I don't think it does. Myself, my brain eventually just naturally, for whatever reason, stops translating. It starts to think in the target language. And, excuse me, as a matter of fact, to me it happens pretty early. Even if I'm, relatively early on, like a low intermediate, upper beginner, I still tend to think quite a bit in the target language. My brain just kind of does it. And I've been realizing more and more lately that a lot of people don't. Even as they keep learning, even as they keep moving forward with the language, their thoughts keep happening in their first language, whether it be English or Japanese or Samoan or whatever language, right? Like they keep thinking in their target language. And that, in my perspective, in my opinion, is where we get into some little challenges. Because if you are constantly, always thinking in your first language and translating in your brain, and that's always what you are doing, it's going to be hard. I'm not saying it's not possible because I don't know, but I can at least say without a shadow of a doubt that it makes things a heck of a lot more challenging. So I guess where I land on this debate of using translation is part one. I think it's not necessarily bad. I think it's okay to be using translation as a tool. But I don't think it makes sense to use it as the only tool. I don't think it can be like you always translate. That's what you always do, right? And actually in the chat, this is a good thing. I'll build on this. Rasmus says, translation is good unless it is word per word. If it's sentences and phrases, we should take a step-by-step approach to essentially figuring out the meaning. That's what I'm taking away from that comment. But yeah, that's for sure. Like if you're looking at a sentence, word per word is going to sometimes, or if not always, be quite difficult, right? So I think it's an okay tool, not necessarily a bad thing to be using it, but you can't always be relying only on it. You can't be in your brain every single time. My name is, okay, this is my name is this, or like whatever. You can't always be doing that. I do think it's healthy if your brain does not naturally start to think or move away from doing a lot of translation in your brain as you're speaking or writing or whatever in a language. I do think you've got to start taking some steps to move away from it so you can speak and communicate and be a little bit more natural. A couple of strategies you can do, I can give you a couple that can help that I've seen work. Number one, I would say number one is using pictures. So I've seen a lot of people and it works quite well. Instead of writing instead of writing book equals un livre in French, right? Instead of writing that and writing the word livre in French, instead write book and draw a picture of a book. That's a really good way to move away from that translation. That's a good way to do it because then you have a picture of a book in your brain instead of like memorizing the word. Another good thing that can work as well is engaging more of your senses. I think what you're doing is if you are only trying to remember book equals livre or book equals libro, book equals this and blah, 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 blah language, you're only really engaging like one part of your brain. I think another really practical thing that you can do is engage more of your senses to remember that word or remember that term. I'll give you some examples. Actually, I said it in one of my live streams yesterday or a couple days ago. If there's like let's say you're writing a word that is difficult for you and it's really not sticking in your brain. It's just not staying in. No matter what you do, it's not staying in your brain. I would recommend like attach an auditory memory to that word. Whether it be you play a specific song when you write that word, because now you can think back to the song, which then puts you back in the shoes of, oh yeah, it basically reboots your memory of when you're studying that word and really helps you get back in the moment and remember how to say it or write it or spell it or whatever. Whether it be you attach it with like an experience, like a kinesthetic motion. I know myself, I'll never forget the word for like vegetable in Mandarin because I was in a restaurant and I had to use it to get food. Like I remember that very vividly. And creating memories is another really good way to move away from that translation. And you can do that just by engaging more than just sitting in a desk, writing something over and over. Like doing more than just that can help. So anyway, I'm gonna cut this here. It's been going 8 minutes. I don't want to talk to you too long, so we'll wrap it up. I hope that was at least a little bit helpful, a little bit useful. And yeah, we'll talk later. Bye for now. See you guys.